Welcome back, cloud enthusiasts. And today we are going to be building a fast and secure static website hosted on AWS using a handful of AWS services. Some of the services you're going to be touching is S3, CloudFront, ACM, and Route 53. Here's a look at a diagram that shows what this solution will look like when complete. A situation or scenario in which this solution might be beneficial to you would be for personal use. You can set up your own website statically and host it. If you are an IT professional, you can create an online portfolio using this method, and it'll be highly available at your own domain, and you can host all of your career accomplishments on this site. Another scenario where this might be applicable is a small business or company wants to create a static and secure website to showcase some products that they may be offering. They've already purchased the domain and they just want to have the website created and hook it up to host this content. After this deployment is complete, any visitors can access the website using an HTTPS URL, and all the data transfer will be secured using SSL TLS. And as always, let's get right to the business without all the fluff. Headed to the lab. So we find ourselves at our console home in AWS. And the first thing we need to do is register our custom domain with Route 53. What we would want to do is go on and type Route 53 in the search bar and head on over to Route 53. On the left-hand side of the screen, we need to go down to domains and click on registered domain. Now, the process to register a domain takes a minimum of 15 minutes, but it could take up to 2 days. I've already registered the domain that we're going to use for this lab, but I did not go through the process here in this lab for the sake of time and because it takes a little while for the domain to become registered. If you do not know how to register a domain, I have a video in this playlist that shows you how to register a domain and walks you through all of the steps. A link to a step-by-step document and a link to the tutorial video will be in the description. The next step is to create a couple of S3 buckets. So what we're going to need to do is travel over to S3. We can click on services. We can either type S3 in the box or go here. All right, we want to create 2 S3 buckets, a root domain bucket and a subdomain bucket. The root domain bucket is going to hold our website files. The subdomain bucket is going to be for redirection, and let's go through the process. So we're going to create a bucket. We're going to name this bucket the name of our domain. So the bucket has to be the same name as your domain. Okay, there's our domain name. That's going to be our bucket name. Okay, we're going to choose what region we want to deploy in. I'm choosing US East 1. That is the region I'm closest to. I'm going to make sure that ACL's enabled is on. I'm going to go ahead and unblock all public access. Acknowledge that I've turned off block all public access. And I'm going to leave the defaults as they are and create the bucket. Okay, there's my first bucket. Now let's create my second bucket. Second bucket is going to be your domain with www dot in front of it. So make sure we're in the right region, US East 1. Going to turn on the ACLs. We are going to leave block all public access on, leave the defaults, and create the bucket. All right, now we have 2 buckets created. One called cloudoptimizedlabs.com and one called www.cloudoptimizedlabs.com. Okay, we need to create one more bucket because we want to capture logs for how many people visit our website, everything that goes on with our website. So we're going to click create a bucket. This is going to be logs in our domain. We just named it that, so we'll know what it is associated with. We're going to turn on the ACLs. We are going to leave block all public access on, and we are going to leave the defaults and create the bucket. All right, so inside the logs bucket, go ahead and click on the bucket ID, brings you in here. We're going to create a couple of prefixes or folders for our logs. So let's create a folder. The first folder is going to be access logs. We're going to name it access logs and create the folder. I'm going to create another folder, and it's going to be CF logs, and the CF stands for CloudFormation. So this is going to be the folder for the CloudFormation logs. Create the folder. All right, we're going to have bucket access logs and CloudFormation log. Okay, now that that is done, let's go back to buckets, and we need to configure our main domain bucket, and that's going to be cloudoptimizedlabs.com. Let's click on it. We're going to go to properties. We need to configure this for logging, and we need to configure it for website hosting. Go to server access logging, click edit. We're going to enable it. We're going to browse for our bucket, and our folder is going to be logs.cloudoptimized, and we want click access logs and choose path, and that's where our access logs are going to go. Save changes. Then we're going to go down here to static website hosting. We're going to edit. We're going to enable static website hosting. We're going to put our index file in, and it's going to be called index.html. In the error document, we're going to say error/index.html, and that is because our error file for the website is in a folder called error, and it is named index.html. Others would just name the document error.html and keep it in the same folder as this, but we didn't do that this time. So go ahead and scroll down to the bottom and click save. All right, now that we've done that, we need to go over to permissions. And we've already turned off block public access when we created the bucket, so that's fine. We want that off. Now we need to create a bucket policy for this bucket. So we're going to click edit, and we are going to paste in the code supplied with the how-to document in the description of this tutorial, right? And we are going to change this piece bucket name to our bucket name that we created, and our bucket name is called cloudoptimizedlabs.com. And then we're going to save those changes. It's done. They give us a warning letting us know your bucket is publicly accessible. We know that because it is going to be a website. Scroll down and look at the bucket policy. Make sure we got our bucket name spelled right. It looks good. Okay, and now we need to configure our subdomain bucket. Let's go back to buckets. Our subdomain bucket is the www.cloudoptimized bucket. We're going to click on it. We're going to go to properties. We're going to go all the way down to the bottom. We're going to turn on static website hosting. And we're going to click on hosting type, redirect requests for an object. As you can see, fields changed. The host name is going to be the name of our root domain bucket, and that is cloudoptimizedlabs.com. And for now, we're going to choose HTTP for the protocol and click save. And what that configuration we just did is going to do is that anytime anyone types www and our domain name cloudoptimizedlabs.com, it's going to redirect them to our root domain, just cloudoptimized.com. So that's, a lot of times when you log into a browser these days, no one types www, right? They just type in the name of the domain dot whatever they want to go to. But just in case they do type in www, instead of giving them an error, it's going to redirect them to our root domain. So that's why we did that. Okay, now what we need to do is go back to buckets, and we need to upload our website files to our root domain bucket. Our root domain bucket is Cloud Optimized Labs right here. And we're going to click upload. And we're just going to grab all of our static website files and drag them over into this screen. This is the quickest, easiest way to upload the files. Otherwise, you'd have to upload files and folders separately. Scroll down to the bottom here and click upload. And we have some who succeeded and some that are still pending. So our files are being uploaded. Done, right? Now that we have uploaded all of our files, let's go over here to the left panel by clicking the hamburger bar. We're going to go back to buckets. And we are going to click on our root domain bucket. And we are going to click on properties, because now that we've uploaded our website files, we should be able to check to see if that works. So we're going to copy the website endpoint under the static website hosting field in properties of your domain bucket, root domain bucket. We're going to go ahead and click that, copy it, and in a separate browser window, we are going to paste this. And as you can see, our website is live. All right. And so this is just a template website that I customized from a template designed by HTML5. And this is the same template that is included with description of this tutorial. And we can click on the little keys and you can see that they do work. All right, and we can keep on moving. So that looks good. Okay, so now that that is done, we need to go over to Route 53 and add our records for our domain names, our root domain and subdomain, so that when someone types cloudoptimized.com in the browser, it brings them to that website. Okay, so let's go on over to Route 53. Let's open another window here. Okay, and then we're just gonna say Route 53. Now we're gonna go over here to the left column. We're gonna click on hosted zones. We're gonna see that there is a hosted zone associated with our domain, cloudoptimized.com. We're gonna click on that. As you can see, there are 2 records that are automatically generated by Route 53 whenever you register a domain, and that is what you see here. So we're going to click on Create a Record. If it looks like this when you first jump in there, this is the advanced window for people who are very familiar with the process. You can go right here and say Switch to Wizard, and it will give you a beginner-friendly view of how to set these up. So we're going to go ahead and go to simple routing, right? And then we're going to say next. And then we're going to define a simple record. So when we click that, we get this card here, and we're going to fill this card out. Domain is going to be cloudoptimizedlabs.com. Now, when we do our subdomain, it's a little bit different. But for now, you'll just leave this blank. Put nothing there, right? We're going to, down here to record type, we're going to make sure that we leave the default, which is A. If it's not defaulted on A for you, go ahead and click A because we want an A record. And we're going to choose our endpoint. When we click the field, we can go alias, and we're going to alias it to the S3 bucket that we just set up for this. So alias to S3 website endpoint. And that's what we click there. We're going to choose the region that our bucket is in. And we know that our region was US East 1. Here we go, US East 1. We're going to choose our endpoint. The only endpoint that we have available to choose is our actual endpoint. And as you can see, it is cloudoptimizedlabs.com. So we're going to click that. On evaluate target health, this is a bucket, so we don't need to worry about evaluating the health. If it was an EC2 instance, we'd say yes, probably, but we're going to turn that off and define simple record. Boom. We got that one. So we got one. We need another one for our subdomain. So we're going to click define simple record. It's going to give us another card. This time we're going to put the www in there, and it says .cloudoptimizedlabs.com. Same record type is going to be A. We're going to value route traffic to. We're going to choose our S3 website endpoint. If we choose our region, it's going to be US East 1. Yep. And when we choose our endpoint, we see the only one available. And as you can see, it's www.cloudoptimizedlabs. We're going to turn off evaluate target health and define. Okay, now if we go right back here to our cloud optimized hosted zone and we click refresh. Okay, now that that's all done, we can go ahead and test to see if our Route 53 records have kicked in. It usually takes a couple of minutes for those records to propagate and everything. So let's give it a try. Let's type in our domain name. It's going to be cloudoptimizedlabs.com. Type that in and boom, it brought us to our website, our static website, right? Yes, we see our static website. Now let's see if the redirect is working. As you can see here, this is our root domain, cloudoptimizedlabs.com. That's all it's showing. So now let's go ahead and open up another tab, www.cloudoptimizedlabs.com. Hit that. And it brought us to our website. Okay, and now we're done, right? We've just set up our static website, hosted it on S3, set up our DNS records, and now we can reach our website just by simply typing in the registered domain name that we registered in Route 53. Now we can stop there and be done. But in this tutorial, we're going to go all the way, right? So we're going to go ahead and add a CloudFront distribution. And the first thing we need to do in order to do that is to request a SSL/TLS certificate from Amazon Certificate Manager. So let's head back to our management console. All right, and we're going to just open another tab up here, and then we're going to type certificate, and we're going to click on Certificate Manager, and we're going to say request a certificate. Go ahead and close these announcements. We want to request a public certificate, SSL/TLS certificate from Amazon, right? Now you can import a certificate, you can request a private certificate. There's a couple other options, but this is the one we are doing, so we're gonna click next. Now we need to put in our fully qualified domain name, and that is our root domain name, right? The one we registered with Route 53, and that is cloudoptimizedlabs.com. We're going to add another name to this certificate because we want to make sure our subdomain is covered by this certificate as well. So we're going to put www.com. All right. And so that's going to give us both of our root domain and our subdomain. And this requesting this certificate is going to give us encryption over the internet and make our website secure. If you'll notice, if we go back to our website tab, right here it says not secure. And you don't want that. It makes your website look untrustworthy. So you want to make sure your website is secure, or people won't trust it. They just won't mess with it. That's why we're getting this certificate from Certificate Manager. Now, as we scroll down, validation method, we're going to use DNS validation. It is the recommended validation method. However, there is an email validation option available. We're not going to bother with that. It's where they send you emails. You got to verify the email and a whole bunch of steps. This is the easiest way. We're going to choose our algorithm. RSA 248 is good enough for us. You can add tags if you want. Go ahead and click request. And it says successfully requested certificate. It gives you a certificate ID. The status is pending validation. And it says our domain name and the type Amazon issued. So certificate is issued. We're going to click on the certificate ID right here. And we've got to do our validation, right? The certificate manager is going to go out and validate our DNS. And we need to create some records to do that. And a convenient thing about certificate manager is they will create the records for you. So if you scroll down here to domains, you can click here and say create records in Route 53, and they will create the records in Route 53 for you for your domain. So let's go ahead and click that. They're showing you what records they're going to create here, 2 CNAME records, and here's the information. Our certificate is pending this validation. So we're going to create the records. Boom. Successfully created DNS records, successfully created DNS records in Route 53 for the certificate with this ID. Now our validation is pending validation while they check it out. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to list certificates, and we're still in a pending validation status. So let's bring up us a timer. Okay, let's put our little validation clock over here, and let's just make sure it's not validated and start the timer. And let's see how long it actually takes for the validation to happen. All right, we've got just about a minute here. Let's wait till 1 minute and then give it a refresh. Boom, issued. Took less than a minute. Looks like for our certificate to be issued. We can stop this and move it somewhere else. Okay, so let's go list certificates. Click on our certificate ID again. You see the status is issued. Okay, now we've got our certificate issued. We've got our DNS updated. Now we can create our CloudFront distribution. So let's go ahead and click another window open here. We're going to go to CloudFront. Let's get a full screen deal going on here. Create a CloudFront distribution. Click it. All right. Under origin domain, we want to enter the endpoint that was generated by our S3 bucket. It's not in here, right? They're showing us the names of our S3 buckets, but not the endpoint. So we either need to go to S3 and copy the endpoint from the static web hosting section, or we can just choose the bucket and it'll warn us and say, we don't recommend you use the bucket. We recommend you use the endpoint. And then you can just click use website endpoint right there, and it'll put it in there for you. Okay. Origin path is an optional field, but CloudFront fills it for you, so you don't have to worry about that. Name has already been filled. Scroll down to default cache behavior, and you want to redirect HTTP to HTTPS. So that's going to redirect calls to the unsecure static website. It's going to redirect them. Okay, keep scrolling on down here to settings. And for settings, selected by default is use all edge locations. It gives you the best performance, but it costs more, right? The second option is use only in North America and Europe. If your website is promoting a service that's only available North America, then this would save you some money because you don't need people in other countries being able to even see your website, right? For what? You can't service them. So it's just all about whatever you want to do. The recommendation is use all edge locations for best performance. So we'll just go ahead and do that. Okay, moving down right here, alternate domain names. We're going to add an item and we're going to put the www, our subdomain name, in here. So www dot, and that's so that we can get the redirection for this domain as well to our root domain. SSL certificate, we're going to choose the SSL certificate that we created. Choose our certificate that we just had issued. We can see that we get a choice of encryption. We're going to use the recommended support HTTP2. All right, and in default root object, we're going to put index.html. That is our, whoops, that is a comma, .html. That is our website page. And we're going to turn on standard logging. We're going to choose the bucket, which is going to be logs cloud optimized. And in log prefix, we're going to put the name of our folder where we want our logs to go. And if we remember, that is going to be access logs. That's the folder we created in our S3 bucket for these logs. And the rest can stay at the defaults, and we'll click create distribution. So let's click the hamburger bar over here and go to distributions. And as you can see here, we have a distribution. If we click on the ID of the distribution, we can see that it is deploying right now. And we'll just have to wait for it to finish deploying. All right. And let's go ahead and get us up a timer so we can see how long it actually takes to deploy. We'll come back and check it in about a minute. Okay, now let's see if our distribution is distributed. Let's click on it. Still deploying. Let's just do a refresh just to make sure it's still deploying, so we still rolling. We'll come back a couple more minutes. Okay, let's give it another shot and see if it's ready to go. And status is enabled, and we are at 3 minutes. So between 2 and 3 minutes it took to get us enabled. All right, so now what we're going to do is we've got to test to see if the CloudFront distribution is actually working. So we're going to copy this distribution domain name, and we're going to open up an incognito window, and let's just paste that in there, and we should see our website. And we do. So our CloudFront distribution is working. All right, see that? And if you'll notice up here in the corner, there's no not secure sign. So we know that it's secure because we got our lock right there. Now, we know that our CloudFront distribution is working, but it's not pointing to our domain name, is it? So if we opened up another window and we typed in cloudoptimized labs.com and hit it, we're still being directed to our S3 bucket, and it is not secure. So we're not being directed to our CloudFront distribution from our domain name here. So we need to fix that. So we're going to go update our record sets in Route 53. And let's go ahead and get started on that. We can close this window now. And we can go here to Route 53 in our previous tab. In our Route 53 tab, first we need to refresh this tab because it's been open a while and may not have what we need in there. Then we're going to go to hosted zones. Then we're going to click on our root domain name, and we are going to modify the A records. And we'll start with our root domain A record. We're going to click the box to the left of the name, and we're going to come over here to the right and say edit record. All right, we're going to go down here where it says route traffic to, and we're going to change it from our S3 website endpoint. And look here, see this S3 website, US East 1, Amazon.com. That is the endpoint to our S3 bucket. Our field is not showing us our CloudFront distribution, even though we've switched the route traffic option to it, right? And I've run into this. I don't know why the field's not populating, even after refreshing the page. And so I've run into that before. That is the issue. So what we're going to do is we're going to recreate these A records. So we're going to delete these records. Yeah, delete them. And we're going to recreate them how we need them. So hit create record, simple record. Click next, define a simple record. Our root domain stays there. It's going to be an A record. We're going to say alias to CloudFront distribution. And now, as you can see, our CloudFront distribution shows cloudfront.net, just like that. And say define simple record. Now we're going to define another simple record. This one's going to be for our www domain. We're going to choose alias to CloudFront. We're going to choose our distribution and define simple record. Create the records. You get a notification that's successful. You now have replaced your A records that are pointing to the S3 endpoint with A records that are pointing to your CloudFront distribution. And as usual, it takes a few minutes for the DNS to propagate. So we'll just wait it out here for just a split second, and then we'll go over and we'll try out our website. So let's go open us an incognito window again. And if you remember before, we could get to our CloudFront distribution, our static website with the endpoint from the CloudFront distribution, but we could not get to the secure endpoint from using our domain name. So we had to go edit the records. We've done that. And now we're just going to type in cloudoptimizedlabs.com and boom, there we are at our static website. And if you look up there, you see the lock. We are secure. It's no longer saying not secure. All right. And if we type in www.cloudoptimized.labs.com and hit enter, as you can see, we're at our static website, and boom, we are still secure. It redirected us, and you can see it still has the www after HTTPS. So we are golden. We have now set up a static website that's interactive, hosted on S3 with a CloudFront distribution and a security certificate to make it secure. Is now available across the world using CloudFront, and everything is beautiful. So now our website is going to be faster. It's going to be distributed by CloudFront to edge locations all over the world where users will be directed to a cached version of our static website content so that it's faster for the user. The website is responsive and it's not taking a long time, right? And that's what we want. And that's what we have. Now that we've done that, let's go ahead and close this. And let's go over to S3 and take a look at our logs. If you remember, we set up some logging and we want to see how that turned out. So we're going to click on our logs bucket, click on CloudFront logs, and there's no logs yet. CloudFront takes a minute to start distributing logs. Let's go back to logs and let's see if there's any access logs. Okay, we've got some access logs though, and there seems to be quite a few. You can click on these logs and you can download these logs. Let's see what happens if we try to open a log. If we open a log, it gives us a little bit of information. All right, if we go back to log, our CloudFront logs will start showing up shortly, and then we can just go here and view those logs as well. And so that completed the steps we needed to take in order to deploy these resources. If you've gone through this process just for the lab, now would be cleanup time. This is where you go about decommissioning all of the resources that you've deployed. And so let's quickly go through the steps for this particular tutorial. First, we would delete the CloudFront distribution. And so we would open up CloudFront and we would click on the distribution and we would click disable. You must disable the distribution before you can delete it. Once the disabling is complete, it takes a few minutes. Then we can click the box, press delete, and delete the distribution. The next step would be to go and clean up Route 53, delete the records that we don't need anymore. And we'll go over to Route 53 and we would choose hosted zones and we would choose the hosted zone we created. And we would click on the A records. We would click on the CNAME records and we would click delete records and click delete. And then those records will be deleted for you and you won't need those anymore. All right. And that's all you delete here. Leave these two records, leave the hosted zone because it is tied to your paid for domain. So you'll use this in the future. Okay. And then the next step would be to go ahead and delete the certificate, and you can go to services. We'll go to ACM, our certificate manager here. We will click on the certificate we want to delete and we would just click delete, type in delete, click delete, and the certificate will be deleted. And that's going to be the end of that. Thank you very much. And that's going to be it, cloud enthusiasts. I hope you got something out of this demonstration. As always, the customaries, do comment in the comment section if you have something to say. Hit the like button for us, share this content, and until the next lab project, fam, peace.